All right, people, we're about to go on Hope Blackmon show at 2:30 WLLV. Why didn't y'all tell me you had new spaces? Y'all know I've been gone from Louisville. These are nice. I'm going to show y'all when we get off. I was telling him, I was like, when did y'all get this? He said 2 years.
Yes, it's been somewhere around in there. Okay, all the phones on vibrate.
Now, who is this on right now? Oh.
I don't know. I think it's a church.
He's good. I just don't know who he is.
Calls us to learn
26.
Romans 10:17. The Bible says faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. Hearing the word of God. That's the starting point. When do you
got lots of things to do today?
Me neither. I try not to. Especially, I don't like the hot. Yeah.
I'm an AK.
I know.
Yeah. I got to go over to the building and work on my building, but help. I'm sponsoring a room over there, so I got to clean it up and all that stuff. So I'm loving it. This is our space. Well, this is my room anyway.
Now, where's it at?
It's off of Crumbs Lane.
Okay. That's where I live out that way.
That's the room. It's from the entrance to the door. So these are things I got to replace. West End Church.
Okay. We're about to get it started. Facebook Live.
More power, more praise. 1240 AM. And now at 101.9 FM, Louisville's gospel station, WLLV.
The following program is paid for by Hope Blackmon.
The only radio show where single mothers can express their point of view. Let's get ready to laugh, cry, empower, and strengthen. Single mothers, let's talk. Now, your host, Hope Blackmon.
Hello, and welcome to Single Mothers Let's Talk. I am your host, Hope Blackmon. Last week, I had one of the authors, Dr. Lucretia Starnes, who wrote her story about the abuse she experienced and saw in her home while growing up. In the book, The Battle Behind My Smile. And her story was based off Started at Home. I'm extremely excited, and I'm emphasizing extremely excited to have the visionary and the author of that book, The Battle Behind My Smile, Tanya White. My guest author, Tanya White, will share her story, the battle of not giving up while grieving, along with the purpose of the book, The Battle Behind My Smile. I welcome to the show Tanya White. Welcome, Tanya, and once I must say, Happy Mother's Day, because it's still the month of May, but Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your book, The Battle Behind My Smile.
Thank you so much for having me on your show, Hope. I'm just excited to be here.
I'm glad that you are just as excited as I am, because when Dr. Lucretia came to me about the book, she indicated there were other authors besides herself on there. So before we get to the book and tell the people on how to get the book, tell me a little bit about yourself.
All right. I'm Tanya White, born and bred in Louisville, Kentucky. I am a member of the Crimson and Cream Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated.
I hear you.
Yes. I have been writing professionally since 2005. I started writing professionally after my mom died of cancer. That was my therapy. But I was one of those students in class. When we read a book, I always wanted to do a book report because I always have my voice heard. And I wanted to write about what I read. So I was that student. I love writing because it takes you to a place that you can grow, you can reflect, and you can voice your opinion. So I've been doing that since 2005. I started Tanya's Tips. Back then it was called e-newsletters, but now they call them blogs. That blossomed. And I wrote my first book. It's published it in 2007. So
So this is not your first book.
No.
Okay, what was the first book title?
Listen, the first book was called How to Deal with a Difficult Woman, because I wanted people to learn how to deal with me, first of all.
Okay.
Instead of start, because when we deal with somebody difficult, we usually just throw them away and say, I don't deal with them. But what if that person is your mom, your sister, some family member? You got to learn how to deal with me. Deal with me and them. And there's always a backstory behind people's behavior.
Sure.
And so that's why I wrote it. I was in Jefferson County Schools for 20 years. I started as a special education teacher, and then I ended my career last year as a school counselor. And so that's a little bit about me.
And you are a single mom, or are you
I
married?
am a single auntie.
Auntie? Okay.
I am the auntie that raises the village. So I literally have raised my niece, Emery White, since she was 5. And now she's going to be 16. Oh, my Jesus.
Wow, time flies, doesn't
it? It really flies, and I'm having moments. I already told her when she graduates in 2 years, I'm going to be on the floor at Central High School. So anybody in the class of 2024, you will see me on the floor having a fit.
Oh, my goodness. Don't embarrass her.
I'm sorry. It's going to happen because she's going to be leaving.
Right. I understand.
Yes.
I understand as a single mom and a mother of 2, and my 2 grew up and now they're out and about doing their thing. That empty nest hit in hard, and it became loneliness, and then it became, what am I going to do? And then it became, okay, I'm glad they gone. Let's move on.
Well, I'm going to try to get that. I'm going to try to get that.
So with the book titled
Yes,
The Battle Behind My Smiles.
Yes.
Where did that come from?
That came from last year around this time. I was dating the love of my life, Stefan, and we met. He approached me. Oh my God, what a beautiful smile! And he had a beautiful smile as well. And so, all throughout our courtship, we talked about each other's smile. And when we looked at pictures, we always said, "You don't know what was going on during that time," but I was smiling. He was smiling. And so last year around this time, I had released a client's book, and I was happy. And he was like, he was happy for me. But he was like, "Sweetie, when are you gonna do your next book?" I was like, I hadn't even thought about it. But I always wanted to do an anthology with a group of authors. And so June 4th, the Lord gave me the title, The Battle Behind My Smile, Public Testimonies of Triumph in the Midst of Our Private Trauma. And I had did my little planning. I'm a planner, have everything to the T. And then June 11th, the doctors gave us some bad news about Stefan's prostate cancer, that there was nothing else that they can do. And they recommended hospice. So didn't know that this title was going to be prophetic. I had something else written and that I was going to write for this, but I literally had to walk through grief. And then 6 weeks after June 11th, when the Lord gave me his title, Stefan passed away.
Right. Sorry to hear that.
Yes. And so after his funeral, I'm like, Lord, he lived in Indianapolis, so I had relocated. Left my job in Jefferson County, was going happily ever after. Mm-hmm. And then that happened. And I was sitting on his couch after his funeral. I was like, Lord, I'm going back home. I'm going to grieve. I'm not going to do nothing but grieve, eat, and cry, because me and you got to talk.
Right. And that's a lot of times that's what we do when we done lost someone.
Yes. And so the Lord said, okay, I'm going to let you have your moment, but you still going to do this project. And I'm like, no, I'm not. So I'm having a tantrum with the Lord. And as you know, if you are led by the Lord has the last say.
Yes, he does.
And so when I came back home, August 27th, I started doing the little flyer for social media. I'm looking for authors for this anthology. And I was like, I hope I just get 10 authors. Well, 52 signed up. 52 signed up. And then actually 26 showed up on the call. And then 20 signed a contract. 18 of us finished the project. And so the call was September 19th, 2021. They had to sign the contracts by October 1st. And so that journey began. And we released this book April 22nd, 2022.
Wow. So for those authors, how long did they have to get theirs in? Because, I mean, reading the book, even like with Dr. Lucretia, it's like you had a crash course, a lot of it in it, but get to the key points.
Yes. So we had guidelines. They had to write 2,000 words. They signed on October 1st, and they had to turn in their first draft November 15th. And when I say they did that, and this project is God led, because like I said, I was going through my own grief. I hadn't even written my chapter by November 15th, because I was like, okay, God, I don't want to, pour myself into this fresh grief. But when I was reading all of their drafts and being encouraged and seeing some of I've known for years and didn't know until I read their chapter what they had gone through.
Right.
And so that encouraged me. We have stories in here of suicide, of homicide, of just molestation and domestic violence. And then we have 4 men that kick us off that I was proud. Yes, people just think this is a women's book, but no, 4 men came on. And one of the men is my brother, Joe White, and he talks about the battle of having daddy dialogue, because growing up, our daddy was very present in our life, married to our mom until he passed away. And he taught us very intricate life tips. And so he talks about that, especially being a man and losing, our daddy died when he was 13. And so he always says that daddy taught him more in 13 years than most of his friends' dads taught them in a lifetime. And because his saying would be, I'm not always going to be here. Right. So I got to teach you and you got to learn. And so after he died, we was like, okay, this is what he meant. So you can keep on going and being resilient. So that is what the battle behind my smile is about. We all have struggles. We all have battles that are unexpected and some expected. But when you're in the midst of them, you don't think that there's hope. You don't think that you can keep going. But on the other side, that's where you find the blessing. And then you can share your battles with other people. Because one thing, especially going through Stefan's funeral, I always had a smile. But that was because my parents had all passed before. So going to that, I've learned how to not only cope with grief, but how to help others during that time who may not understand. So people saw me smiling and they just thought, oh, she's so strong. And I'm like, okay, I'm strong. No, I'm doing what God is allowing me to do because y'all really don't know that I want to crawl up in the house and not come out.
And a lot of us do. Mm-hmm. A lot of us do.
Yeah.
And how to get to that stage of not going there is tough.
It's very tough.
But, and I say, when my father passed, I was 24. Mm-hmm. So I had him for 24 years and I love him. I still talk about him.
Yes.
And I talk about him in a good way. Some of the things that he did that I disapproved of, I don't talk about those things. I talk about, like what your brother did, bring up the stuff that he's done to prepare us to move forward.
Absolutely.
And I share with my son, these are the things that my dad instilled in me. You know you're better than that.
Yes.
So I tell them, you are better than that. My son, my daughter, you are better than that. Mm-hmm. If we see someone doing something wrong, you're better than that. You got to know that. So even though I'm going back to his wake, his visitation, and I seen my mom standing up at the front, in front of the casket, and people hugging and smiling, and she just smiling.
Yes.
But deep down inside, she is torn
up,
because that is 20-something years of marriage that is leaving, 24 years of fatherhood that is leaving, and we still got to smile.
Yes, and my mother was the same way because I was with my mom. My dad had to be rushed from dialysis to the hospital. So I was with my mom when the doctors came in and said Joe didn't make it. And I remember, and I write about this in the book, because I inherited my smile from my mom. And everybody says that. But I remember after the doctor left, telling us that my dad had died, she's like, oh, I got to be strong. And I was like, no, you don't. Right. Daddy just died. But we have been programmed to think that strong means not showing emotion.
Right.
And the greatest strength that I've learned, especially doing this project, is to show your emotions, to show your grief, to show your anger, show every emotion that you have during that time, because it's going to help somebody. Right. When my mom died, I literally had to go to therapy. When my daddy died, my mom was there, so she helped me. after mom and dad, I was like, okay, what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
And so going to therapy helped me to
course.
deal with understanding that, you know, death is real, it's a part of life, and your feelings about whoever has passed away are valid. And you can't suppress them, because if you suppress them, it's going to make you not only emotionally sick, but physically sick.
Now, can I ask how long with you and your friend
Yeah.
had passed? How long were y'all dating?
We had dated. We met the month before the pandemic shut everything down.
Wow.
February 7th, 2020. He made it official March 11th, 2020. And then everything shut down March 13th. And so we literally, our courtship was very unique, because you couldn't do the original things, go out to dinner.
Yes.
So
the world changed.
The
in
world
2020.
changed for real. And so dating had to change. And so instead of trying to show off and, you know, get all glammed up like we do, and, you know, the man trying to show you how, you know, the lavish things, we couldn't do that. We had to have deck dates on his deck. He cooked, grilled out. And so those were dates.
That's a good man right there.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Oh, yes, honey. He was a good man.
Any man that cooking.
And then he loved to cook. He loved
it.
But my dad was like that. And my brother would tell you, if he was here, yes, Stefan was our dad, because he loved to cook. And because I traveled from Louisville to Indy, it was just like, when you get there, you don't have to do nothing, because you've been on the road and blah, and cook. I'm like, okay, that's what I'm used to.
You ain't got to tell me twice.
I can't cook, but since you love to cook, let's go, honey, cook. And so, our courtship was very different. And so we had dated 16 months before he passed.
Wow.
We're planning to get engaged and have a happily ever after. And then that threw us for a loop. And so we had the tough talks before he passed. And he always apologized, saying, you know, it wasn't fair. And he's like, you're a good woman. And, you know, gave me some instructions after he died not to grieve too long. And get back out there, because I was a good woman. I will make somebody a great wife. And he was sorry that he would not be my husband. So we had those talks.
Wow.
And so
that's deep in itself.
Yes.
And you share that a little bit more in that story?
Yes, I share in my chapter, the battle to not give up while grieving. I take us through the process of what I was dealing with, even going through this book, of having to do what God told me to do in the midst of walking through grief, and saying, Lord, why did you take him away from me? And then dealing with all my human emotions, having breakdowns, not wanting to leave the house and go to like social events, because I was like dealing with grief, anxiety, you know, because I was coming back from Indianapolis, so people were seeing me, and the world was starting to open up last August.
Yes.
And so even when I go out, I know people were concerned, but I was like, please don't ask me about him. I remember I was at an event, and they played his favorite song. That was in September. I literally was like, gotta go, because I was about to have a breakdown. So learning to cope with my new normal was what this book helped me do, and really saved me from being a recluse, because I had to do what God told me to do.
Do you think the rest of the authors felt the same way?
Oh, yes. This book was very unique. And like I said, I'm a planner. So they were not left on their own. So we had group meetings with we call her our grief angel. She was out of Minnesota, and she was a chaplain and a grief counselor. That's what she does in her real life. And so throughout the project, we just met with her, especially during the writing, because it brings up, no matter what you're writing about, brings up traumatic feelings and triggers. And so we had group meetings with her, and then all of our authors could have like personal sessions with her if we were writing and getting to a place like, okay, I thought I was, over this, but what is this? What is this I'm feeling? So we could reach out to her and help, and she will help us through the next step so we can finish. So that was something I was very adamant about. Being a school counselor myself, and I had grief groups before. I knew what writing was going to do, and bring up some emotions that you could say, oh, I don't want to deal with that, I'm going to quit. And no, we're going to press through and understand this is a part of the process, and get through it. And so every author poured their heart. I was just shocked. I was shocked when I got some of the drafts.
Yes, I read a few of the chapters in there, and Their stories are deep, and that's one thing that I love about my show is having individuals come on the show to talk about
Yes.
their life, because everyone has a story to tell, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
Because 9 times out of 10, it's something bad that turned into a positive
Absolutely.
one way. And I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show today to express your side
Yes.
of the chapter and the book. So do you plan on doing some more authors, or are you going to just
Yes.
stick with your own
No,
one?
my
as a
goal. No, my goal is for the Battle Behind My Smile to be a series of
Oh, okay.
anthologies, and so we are working on the Battle Behind My Smile, the men's edition, and we're going to come out with that. We're going to start calling for authors in August, and so we can have that for next Father's Day.
Okay.
And my brother's going to lead that.
To lead it?
Because
Okay.
he got energized. This was his first published work, and just writing and talking and getting the feedback about that. And so I was like, okay, let's do a men's edition, dealing with fatherhood, dealing with
Yes.
everything that men
That's
go
awesome.
through, because this is a time that if the pandemic taught us nothing else, it is that we are not alone.
Yes.
And when we feel alone, there's somebody out there, but we have to voice our opinions and our needs of what we need and what we want. And so, yeah, so I have several series coming out about this. I just have to pray and be led, but the men's edition is going to come out 2023.
That sounds awesome. I might, my month of June, I'm looking to do a spinoff of Father's Day.
Oh, yeah.
So I have different men coming onto the show. Some are single fathers raising their kids.
I got three for you. That
and-
are in Louisville.
Yeah, and
In
we
this
can
book.
talk about some of the things that they went through or going through.
Yes.
And so that's my spinoff for the month of November, as this month has been a spinoff for Mother's Day.
Yes.
So I still got one more Saturday for the month of May to
Okay.
spin that out, and then I'll lead into the men to give them the opportunity to share their stories.
Yes.
And excuse me, with we was talking about grieving. Do you think that there is a timeline?
Absolutely not.
Is
Absolutely not. My dad has been in heaven since 1996. And when I was writing, because in the beginning part, the battle backstory I give, how I dealt with my dad's death, how I dealt with my mom's death, and how I dealt with Stefan's death. And when I was writing this book, some feelings came up. And so there's no time limit. There's no stages. We hear the
Right.
stages of grief, which says, once you finish this, you move on to the next. No, there are waves of grief because it's going to hit you. Anger, all the emotions will hit you at one time, and you have to go through that. And sometimes you just need to say, look, I'm going to shut my phone off and deal with these emotions right now because I'm not good going out. Because I got to deal with some things, and because they'll all hit you at once. But there's no time limit.
Well, you also had behind that chapter of the grieving, you had another the conclusion. How do you spin all that in?
Behind the battle, healthy coping tips for grieving and trauma, and I just give you coping tips. And some of the things that I've learned, I had to learn that my grief is my grief. You may experience the same thing, like we may experience, like our mothers dying.
Both our fathers.
Yeah,
died,
both the fathers
my mom
died.
is still here,
but the way I process it and the way I handle it is different, and that's okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to. Another big thing I learned. It's okay to be angry and tell God you're angry. Say, God, I'm angry with you. That's what I did when He took Stefan.
Right.
Lord, I'm angry. I didn't waited so long for the man of my dreams, and then you took him. I'm angry. And God understands that because He's God. He can handle that. There's nothing we can say that will offend God.
Right.
And so those are a couple of things. And then know that there is help for you. That's the one thing I had to learn how to get therapy.
Which we all struggle with that.
Yes, it's a societal thing. Everybody says it's a cultural thing, but it goes beyond cultures.
Right.
Therapy is still a stigma, no matter how we deal with all this mental health issue. It's still a stigma. to call a therapist and then show up for the appointment. You go through a whole process of that
Sure
too.
do.
But it is helpful. It is helpful having an outlet to show you how to grieve and showing you how to process your feelings.
Yes, I would agree with you on that. I personally didn't do the therapy after my dad died because I looked at it as that God took him for a reason. I need him, but at the same time, he's not my dad.
Yes.
God, the Father, is my dad. So even though he took him home, I still got to lean on Jesus Christ. And that's what helped me get through. But I do have some crying moments, especially when it comes around to his birthday, come around the day that he actually passed.
Yes.
And in our situation, in our family, my dad died suddenly. He was umpiring at the Newburgh. So he had a massive heart attack right there on the field. We had to hear the calls coming in asking us, did he pass? Which we didn't know at the time because me and my mom was at Value City at the time.
Value City, it's an oldie but goodie.
Right. But at the time it wasn't good because we was like, what's everybody calling for? What do you mean? No, he's at the... We are telling them, no, he's at the park. But at the same time, they was like, no. So that hit us, and which is an unexpected situation of him passing. But at the same time, like I said, I still hold on to his love. I try to shine what he instilled in me onto others. My dad was popular to man, which I'm sure your stepfather was popular to man.
Yeah, my dad was too. And, he died suddenly. He was at dialysis. You know, simple, same routine, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Right.
And before he retired, he was worked at the unemployment service. So he found people jobs. And so he found everybody almost, because every time we would go to the store, hey, Mr. White, you got a job for me? That's how I grew up. And I'm like, man, this is our family time. He ain't trying to work. That was me. But just that routine. And they was like, we need you to meet us at the hospital. We're thinking, okay, so something must be low.
Right.
Now, we never expected that. We
didn't either. My
dad was
46.
Oh, my God, my dad was 51. So young.
Yes.
Young.
Very young. And that does bring out a lot of emotions because I'm going to tell you this, and I need to be a part of your book, but I'm going to tell you this, that when I turned 50, when I was 49, that whole year, I was nervous. 46, I was worried. I was worried at 46.
That's real.
Because I thought that was going to happen to me. Then when I turned 49 going into 50, I was nervous. Two different. Worried versus nervous. Worried, it stayed on me the whole time. What day, what time is it going to happen? Because of him being in the field, umpiring. You know, I'm driving to work. Is it going to happen this time? So a lot of those emotions that you're speaking of does play with you.
Yeah.
It does. And
that's so ironic.
I don't know if it's not part of grieving. It's
a part of grieving because you're trying to trigger. My dad was 51 when he died. My mom was 58 when she died. And Stefan was 59. So I'm like, when you talk about nervous, I'm like, Lord, listen now. I'm be 52 this year. I'm like, Lord, listen now.
We got things to do.
We
still got to carry it on.
Yes. And so, but I battle those thoughts. I do battle those thoughts.
Yes.
But it's real.
But now at the time, I'm at the point when I turned 50 last year, I was like, oh my gosh. My daddy made 50 with me.
Yes.
That's how I instilled it. Each year thereafter, my daddy didn't get to see 47, 48. So I try to reverse that worried and that scared and that nervousness into today me and my daddy is 50. Today me and my dad is 51.
Yeah.
And that's how I cope with it. I am a daddy's girl.
Yep, me too.
It is. It's obvious, can't you tell?
Very much. They said
my
dad's name was Joe. They said I should have been named Josephine. Because I look like him and I act like him.
So how can we purchase the book?
Okay, you can purchase the book. I want you all to go to Amazon.com. A lot of people don't want to go there. But we're trying to get the Amazon bestseller golden seal. So I want you to go to Amazon.com. It is in Kindle form as well, and a paperback. And look up The Battle Behind My Smile and go get that today.
Yeah.
I need about 50 of y'all to do it at the same time.
Come on now, more than 50.
Yeah.
Let's push that number on
Yeah.
up. Well, Tanya, I must say, author in this special.
I had a great time.
I love it. The time on the clock indicates it's time for us to wrap it up. It's unfortunate because we got a lot to talk about, but next time, okay?
Yes, I would love to come back.
So, once again, to purchase the book, The Battle Behind My Smile, you go to Amazon.com. Please support Tanya and the rest of the 15, 16, 17, 18,
it's 18
20
of us. 18 of us in this book.
Authors. So, please go out and support her, Amazon.com. And so, tune in next time for Single Mothers Let's Talk. Now, this is from me to you. Right now, at this moment, you have the strength in you. You are going to succeed through this thing called life. It is important for you to know so you can live your best life. Have a great and blessed day. Afraid of disappointing you, so I need to talk to you. And ask you for your guidance.
I'm loving the new setup, y'all.
Especially today, when my mind seems so cloudy. Hang those back up there for them. That'd be out of the way.
That
You
was
did
great.
a great job.
Well,
I
thank you.
appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we share similar daddy stories.
Yeah.
That was
I love
good.
talking about my daddy. I don't care
Oh,